After a tumultuous season was abruptly shut down, the program should waste little time imparting change, starting with its leadership. Forde names, games, teams and minutiae making news in college basketball, where 23-4 Oral Roberts and scoring dynamo Max Asmus are back in the mix 2 years after a Cinderella Sweet 16 run. Second half. The mess in Las Cruces, New Mexico State took the extraordinary step of shutting down its men's basketball program for the rest of the season Sunday, an acknowledgement of a program that has lost its way. The headlines surrounding the Aggies have been disturbing, and they have nothing to do with the proud program's 9-15 record. If first-year coach Greg Heiar ever coaches NMSU in another game, it would come as a profound shock. There have been 2 separate news events leading to the program's shutdown. The first came in November, when an NMSU road trip to play rival New Mexico ended in a shooting death. Aggies player Mike Peake allegedly shot and killed a New Mexico student in what was characterized as self-defense, in an exchange of gunfire early on the morning of the day of the game. Peake was wounded in the leg, but police say video surveillance showed him approach a yellow Camaro and place items in the trunk of the car. 3 teammates were in the car, according to police. Beyond the sheer tragedy of the situation, the fact that Peake had a gun on a road trip and that as many as 4 of the Aggies skipped curfew and were out at 3 a.m. raised significant doubts about the leadership of the program. Those doubts were heightened when, police said, New Mexico State assistant coaches wound up in possession of Peake's gun and tablet. Dominique Taylor had the gun in an Albuquerque hotel, and Lorenzo Jenkins produced the tablet when the team bus was met by state police on the way back to Las Cruces after the game was canceled. With episode that hanging over the team, New Mexico State abruptly suspended play last week, 24 games into the season. Shortly thereafter, the school shut down the season altogether, citing an allegation of hazing that was made by at least one of the Aggies players. According to a university police report, an unnamed player alleged that he'd been subjected to repeated hazing in the locker room that included being held down by 3 teammates, removing his clothing and slapping his buttocks, and touching his scrotum. In announcing the shutdown of the program, New Mexico State Chancellor Dan Arvizu released a statement saying, "This action is clearly needed, especially after receiving additional facts and reviewing investigation reports related to the hazing allegations involving student athletes on the team. Hazing has no place on our campus, and those found responsible will be held accountable for their actions. We must uphold the safety of our students and the integrity of our university. It's time for this program to reset. The reset should involve no current members of the coaching staff and the dismissal of several players. The fate of athletic director Mario Mocha will have to be considered as well. He chose to hire Heiar, who had been the coach for a season at Northwest Florida State Junior College and for 5 seasons at Chipola Junior College from 2004 to 2009. Between those 2 stints, Heiar worked as an assistant for 3 head coaches who won a lot of games and were forced out of their jobs for non-basketball reasons. From 2009 to 11, Heiar worked for Larry Eustachy at Southern Mississippi. Before and after his time at Southern Miss, Eustachy lost his job at Iowa State for off-court comportment and at Colorado State for allegedly abusive behavior toward players and staff. From 2011 to 17, Heiar worked for Greg Marshall at Wichita State. Marshall won a ton of games with the Shockers but resigned in November 2020 after allegations of verbal and physical abuse by multiple players. Marshall was given a settlement of more than $7 million as part of his resignation.